Hi, my name is Shania, and this is my book review presentation. So, the topic that I chose to research is bulimia, and the book that I read is an autobiography called Positively Caroline: How I Beat Bulimia for Good and Found Real Happiness by Caroline Adams Miller, who is a motivational speaker, positive psychology coach, and author. This book starts off with Caroline, who is the narrator of this book, living in the suburbs of Maryland with her husband, Haywood. She has dealt with bulimia 8 years earlier, but she has since recovered, and she is currently pregnant and in the process of opening a treatment center for individuals dealing with eating disorders to get help. She has a healthy pregnancy and gives birth to her healthy son, but things started to go down after that. The investors who invested in the treatment center backed out, and her husband ended up losing money and actually had to live in the same building that treatment center was going to be in. And this was really hard on Caroline because she is a Harvard graduate, and throughout college she had such high expectations of herself, and at the time she felt that she had such little to show for her hard work. And because of this, she turned to bulimia to help cope with her depression. And she was overall just very disappointed in herself and the trajectory of her life. And because of her turning back to bulimia, she began losing a lot of weight, and she was thin, but she wasn't beautiful like she thought making thin would make her. She was still as sad as she was when she weighed a little bit more. When her family started asking why she was losing all this weight, she made excuses to her family about it, trying to point it to her going on diets, but really she was in a lot of pain and needed some help. So she started attending a support group, and things were going well in the support group until she met an individual who claimed that she didn't understand why Caroline was there because she was beautiful, thin, blonde, had a family, and attended Harvard. And this was also very hard on Caroline because she was going through so much pain, but it felt like another individual was dismissing her thoughts, and this wasn't good for her at all. But during this time, she also released her first book called My Name is Caroline, another autobiography about her struggles with bulimia. And this book ended up being really successful, but to the public, she put up this front that she was doing well, she was healthy, she was happy, but really it was a facade because she was still dealing with the emotional turmoil that came with having bulimia. And Caroline ended up going to therapy where she met her therapist, Kathleen. And with Kathleen's help, Caroline and Kathleen identified all of Caroline's harmful behaviors and developed ways that Caroline could be more resilient when faced with setbacks. And during this time, Caroline was also prescribed with medicine, and she was pointed in the direction of her doctor, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown, however, didn't believe Caroline when she said that she was recovering, and this wasn't good for Caroline because she had felt that she was really making progress with the help of Kathleen, and she truly was recovering from her bulimia, but because she was still so thin, Dr. Brown didn't believe her. But Caroline ended up getting prescribed medicine to help Caroline be more happy, so Dr. Brown ended up believing her in the end. And things were going up from here. Caroline got pregnant again and got a new job, and thankfully, despite all of the effects that bulimia had on her body, she had a healthy pregnancy, and this was good for her because her previous pregnancy didn't go well. Caroline was in a really bad headspace with the treatment center not going through, and Caroline and her husband losing a lot of money, so this really helped Caroline recover. And after this, Caroline released another book about bulimia called Feeding the Soul, which ended up being very successful, and Caroline and her family got a lot of money because of it. And with this money, she and her family moved to a new neighborhood, and Caroline really noticed her family and herself being quite happy with how her life was going. And Caroline around this time found out she was pregnant again, and things were going really well up until Caroline found out that her father was very sick and had to be put in a nursing home, who unfortunately died at this nursing home, and this really made Caroline spiral, but instead of turning to bulimia at this point, she turned to Kathleen, who really helped Caroline get back on her feet. And because of this, Caroline decided to go for her master's, and she got her Master of Applied Positive Psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. And Kathleen really helped Caroline view herself as a person who possesses strength that should be acknowledged, and to use this enhanced confidence instead of focusing on her weaknesses. And as of right now, Caroline is still doing motivational speaking. She continues to speak at different schools and events and conventions, and overall, Caroline is doing very well in her recovery. The main characters of this book are Caroline, the narrator, Haywood, who is her husband, her son, Haywood, Samantha, her daughter, Bayard, her youngest son, Betsy, who is a person in her support group, Kathleen, her therapist, and Dr. Brown, her doctor. So the true purpose of this book is to guide people struggling with bulimia on how they can cope with their issues instead of turning to harmful behaviors that can affect your body and your mind greatly. And I would rate this book a 9.5 out of 10. I really appreciate how in-depth and raw the information in this book is. I felt very sad having to hear all of the emotional turmoil that came with Caroline's experiences. But I do really appreciate how Caroline didn't focus on too many of the negatives. Of course, having bulimia is awful, and I'm very sorry that she went through it, but I really like that Caroline was unfiltered and very honest about how she had such high expectations of herself, and she felt like she wasn't doing enough, because even though I can't relate to her having bulimia, I understood her when she said that she expected so much more from herself and was disappointed because of all the bad things that were happening in her life, and I find that to be really relatable. I took off half a point because typically this isn't the type of book I would reach for. I also took off half a point because Caroline didn't go in depth about the technical aspects of having bulimia, such as how she was diagnosed, the signs that she knew she had bulimia, just all of the technical aspects, but I kind of like that she didn't put all of the technical parts in this book, because this book truly focuses more on the emotional experiences, and I felt that maybe talking more about the in-depth information about bulimia would have taken away from the emotional side of it. And here's my works cited. Thank you for watching.